Whenever I tell anyone that I'm gonna spend 5 days of my work holidays backcountry canoe camping with portages with my 8-year-old, my 9-year-old, my nephew who's 12 years old, and my cousin who's barely ever been out before, most people think I'm insane. But I love it!
The windows down, nothing but the road before us now. See the hot yellow sun light up the clouds. We can park the car beside the beach, start a little fire and share a drink. Underneath the stars we'll learn to dream.
Not a bad spot for our first night after a really long day of paddling in like headstrong wind. I'm really happy we made it here. But the thing is that a lot of people always ask me, how do you manage to go out with your kids for multiple days in the backcountry canoe camping? So in today's video, I'm going to share all these tips and tricks throughout this trip that I've come up with to really make my life a lot easier when we go out on a canoe camping trip with kids, so that everybody's having fun and the experience is positive, so that we all look forward for the next trip. But the first thing I want to do with you guys is look at the map, show you guys what we're going to be doing for the next 5 days. So we're going to be spending the week here in La Vérendrye Wildlife Reserve here in Quebec, a few hours north of Ottawa. And here in the reserve, there's already pre-established route that you kind of have to stick to. We're going to be hanging out on Circuit 10 and Circuit 15 for a total of 50 kilometers, give or take, over the next 5 days. We're going to be going over a few portages, maybe less than a kilometer total of portaging, and the rest will mainly be spent on the water. There's a couple of rapids that I don't know if we're going to run yet. It'll depend on water levels, so we'll see when we get there. The wildlife reserve for me is probably one of the best places for families to come, especially with younger kids, because the portages are either non-existent if you want to, and you can still travel quite a bit and see some beautiful country. And second, if you do want to start introducing portages, it's a great place to do so because they're not going to be so long like they tend to be in Algonquin. But as you can see, we're not going to be traveling a whole lot throughout this trip, and that's my first tip for you guys. Have a clear, specific goal as to what you're trying to accomplish with each of these trips. For us, the goal of this trip is not to travel, it's not to introduce portages. We did all of that last year. This year, what I'm trying to do with the kids in this particular trip is I want us to be out in the wilderness for 5 full days. That's why I picked this perfect route, because 50 kilometers, 5 days, it's 10 kilometers a day. It's gonna be pretty easy to do. So yeah, I think we're gonna be having a good time.
Ring, ring, go away, come back another day. Ring, ring, go away, come back another day.
Day 2.
Ring, ring, go away, come back another day. What's not that?
Cold coffee. Let's hit the water now. So tip number 2 for you guys that I have with regards to going out on wilderness canoe camping trip with your kids is, honestly, more kids the better. In this particular case here, what I ended up doing is I invited my nephew to come along, and there's a few reasons for that. First off, I want to share and teach as many people as I can, and I know that he loves it, so I'm happy to be able to bring him along. But for yourself at home, you know, if you only have one kid or if you have 2 kids, if they want to bring a cousin, a friend, I really encourage it, because the truth is that when they come with you know, friends and cousins that they don't get to spend day in, day out with them, it's really fun for them, and they self-entertain each other, and it just makes your life as the adult who's trying to organize and cook and put up the tents and do everything with regards to the trip, it makes your life a lot easier because they can play with each other and just have a really good time. And the thing that you're trying to do with any of these trips when you go out with your kids is to make sure that they have a good time through the rain, through the windy days and the tough long days. And doing that with other people just allows them to have a much more enjoyable time out here. So, as crazy as it sounds, if I could bring a fourth kid and I had enough room in the canoes to do that, I would, because honestly, up to a certain point, of course, the more kids, the better. Well, I must have been tired when I read the map planning the trip, because I thought we were gonna go down those little rapids. And here we are, having to line them up. They're so small. There's no reason to do the portage. Lining works pretty well and the kids get a good kick out of it. Super.
So hear me out. So let's run, run, run. Take me out. Let's run, 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 run. Hot city haze, blue summer skies. Let's get away and take a drive.
Hello, we just got to pick some flowers from the. And do you like flowers? Because of these flowers smell good. Yum.
Get on in and let's go out. So let's run, run,
Let's not get back into it.
where we've been, don't matter now.
One more.
Run, run, run around. Hot city haze, blue summer skies.
And then we went up the rapids, lining the canoe. And then our goal is to go over here, which is down this river.
And that is tip number 3, folks. Let the kids do all the navigation. Of course, make yourself familiar with the map, know where you're going. But navigating is something that keeps the kids occupied all day long. And on top of that, honestly, navigating, following the shorelines, figuring out where you are on the map, knowing exactly where you have to go, it's not that easy to do. And the earlier you can get started with learning how to navigate on the water, the easier it's going to become very soon for them. So I always let the kids navigate, and sometimes we make mistakes, and that's okay. That's part of the learning curve for them. Even though I know we're going in the wrong direction, sometimes I'll still follow their leads just so that they learn and that we can reorient ourselves. Just a great way for them to learn. Good morning. Morning of day, what is it, 3 here? Neverandry Park. And this morning tip is these things right here. In a lot of provincial parks in Ontario and also in Quebec, when you go to check in or you go to pay for your fees and all that, if you go in person, they usually have like little activity guide that you can get, or just super fun for the kids to play, to learn a little bit about things, and they've been a lifesaver for me. So ever since I came across these things a number of years ago, what I tend to do is every time I go into a park, I usually kind of take a handful of them just to kind of stockpile a few at home. I let the kids bring some of their magazines as well, just science magazines and nature magazines, and it's just a really neat way for them to have some quiet time, number one, because every kid will need quiet time at some point during the trip, so keep that in mind. But also, like this morning, we're all just pretty relaxed, and it gives me time to put a few things together so that I don't have to worry about them because they're busy now. Here's another little trick and a little fun activity for the kids to do while they're waiting around for you to basically pack up, and if you want to keep them occupied and it's a big winter, they're called twig houses. You can do this in the sand, you can do this with anything that you basically can find on the forest floor that you don't have to rip off of live trees and all that. Then you can basically come up with little villages. Always a winner with the kids. That they must have been building this for at least an hour, so keep that in mind. Now it's time to get in the water. We have probably 3 to 4 hours of paddling today, and we'll be at the next camp. Next tip, you can't hope the thing to go all day long with the kids in the canoe, so take frequent breaks. My recommendation is usually about an hour to an hour and a half. Try to stop, eat some lunch, get in the water, and take enough time also to dry, because as soon as they get back in the canoe, they are typically cold if they're wet. So it's a beautiful place, nice rock, beautiful place to just cool down, dry off, eat a snack, and we'll be back on the water soon. We're about just a little shy of halfway done for the day. So now we're gonna be just, making a straight shot at it. Probably an hour and a half of paddling, we should get there. And it's gonna be nice to be at camp, not super late, and just be able to enjoy camp a little bit. Because yesterday was a long day. Next tip is let them have some naps in the canoe. Speed doesn't matter. If they want to rest, let them rest. We're almost at camp. I can see it, but we still have to cross the big lake, so here's another tip for you. Snack. You'll always buy them with food. Bring some fun snacks, and they'll always be happy. We're here. Well, it looks like Charlotte has a little bit of a sliver under the foot. So I told her that I would take care of that first off as soon as we get to camp. And that's certainly an important tip for you guys, is make sure that your kids are comfortable out in the backcountry. So you have to kind of forget yourself a little bit and put their needs first and take care of them. And it's certainly the most challenging part of going out, is that you're always the last one to take care of yourself. You're the last one to get changed after you're wet. You're usually the last one to eat. And that just helps making sure that their morale stays nice and up. So I use the little tweezers here. If a little piece sticks out, I can just pinch it out with this. Here we go. Does it feel like there's anything in there left? Okay. Teach them how to do stuff and let them do things. Responsibilities is a good way to get them involved in the whole process and making them enjoy it. Blow it up! Blow it up!
Oh my god.
You slept all afternoon in the canoe. You can blow your own mattress. Come on.
No thanks.
As soon as we made it to camp, the kids noticed this rock here. Looks like a really nice jumping rock for in the water. I want to think there's nothing wrong with jumping off a reasonable sized rock into the water, as long as it's safe. And what are some of the stuff that you want to look for in terms of safety? And that's what I'm going to be using this example here to teach the kids. First off, current in the water that you're going to be landing. This is a lake, so there's no current really, so we don't have to worry about that. Second is what's actually in the water, and the water is dark, so the only way to truly go test out and making sure there's no obstacle in the water is to basically swim it, try to dive around and check out the depth and obviously the height of the rock, which in this case here it's probably only maybe 9 or 10 feet from the water. So woo! Once again, saved by the little activity books here. We're sitting under a tarp, on the 4th morning. Pouring rain outside and it's pancakes. So while they're waiting around, they're having fun. I'm gonna cook up some pancakes and then we're gonna hit the water. Bit of a gloomy day today. It started to rain just as the sun was rising and we were hoping to pack up everything before it would start raining, but for now we have a pretty decent big day ahead of us and it's gonna be an interesting one. For me, I don't hide things to the kids too much. In all honesty, when we got into the canoe, I briefed them. I told them very honestly, I said, listen guys, this is gonna be a hard day. It's gonna be a hard day because it's wet. The morale is going to be a little lower because there's no sun. You might get cold a little bit. You know, for me, the way I look at it is I don't sugarcoat it too much. And the best way to deal with those challenging moments, and that's how I always do it with the kids, and I highly encourage it for you guys, is to take it step by step. Because for every parent or for anyone that wants to go canoe camping, what everybody dread the most is a day like today where you pack up, everyth's wet, it's gonna rain on us all day long. And I'm pretty sure when we stay at camp tonight, it's gonna be raining again. So we're gonna be just wet all together. And that's just a harder day on the water, but a good day because it's good for challenging yourself, for pushing your limits. And there's so much to learn in those situations. We're gonna take this big day into a small chunk and we're gonna break it up. So right now, the first step is we're gonna get to our first portage. Once we get to the first portage, we reassess everyone's condition, see how everyone's doing. If we need a snack, we pull out a snack, and we go from this all day long. Little bits, break it down in bite sizes. It's a lot easier. The next thing you know, well, you did it at the end. So I think it'll be fun anyways. Hard, but fun. We made it to our first sport. How you girls doing?
Good. My butt. That was actually kind of surprisingly wet.
Cool. Celebratory raspberry, buddy. Oh yeah. That's what you get for the portage. Let's do it. All right, step 1. Now, second step, second portage. Let's go. This is turning into a slog. Wet, muddy, cold. But what did I say yesterday? If you want their hearts, feed them. Fruit rolls! Food serves us two purposes. First off, energy to move, but also keeps you warm. Last portage of the day, and it's gonna be a short paddle to our campsite. Oh, look at that elevation. That's it, guys. Whew. No, oh, that was a bad call. Mud to the knees. That's why I guess this was here. Fuck. No. Come on.
Come on.
It's all about flexing your toes so you don't lose a shoe. Oh, that was the first load. Let's go back. All right, next step, camp. Oh man. Technically speaking, we are at camp for tonight. The truth is that it's been a bit of a slog and everybody's wet, everybody's cold. And the way we had planned this trip is to basically sleep about 1.5 kilometers away from the car. And considering the day we just had, we're gonna change our plans and we're actually gonna be pushing it to the car for a few reasons. If this was a beautiful sunny day, it'd be very different. We could enjoy our last night at camp, make some pizzas and just enjoy a good time. But the truth is that it's been pretty hard on the kids all day long to be rained on like this, and there's no real purpose to stay out here when we can get out. The other thing though, and that's a safety aspect to it, is that tomorrow they're calling for severe wind. So on average 21 kilometers an hour, and with wind gust up to 47 kilometers an hour. As you may have noticed, this lake here, Jean Perret, is humongous. Any little bit of wind makes it challenging to navigate. I'm very certain that if we're camped here tonight, tomorrow we're gonna be windbound, and we're gonna have to stay an extra day because the wind's just been picking up and picking up. We can see a little bit of white caps. So I think safety-wise, it'll just be better for us to head home. Cheers. I had this last scene all planned out in my head. It was gonna be at the last camp of the trip under a starry sky with a beautiful campfire behind me. But instead, we're doing this in the rain right here. The last thing I wanna tell you guys is make sure to treat yourself. Listen, going out with kids is no joke. It's not necessarily hard, but it's certainly tiring, and you're always putting your needs second. So bring whatever guilty pleasure you have for yourself at night. When you put them all to bed, the sun's setting, you're alone by the campfire, make sure you enjoy a nice little guilty pleasure. For me, nice little beer, some jubes. I'm always happy with those two things. If you have any tips to share with everybody else, make sure to leave them in the comments below. What are some of your favorite tips to go out with kids on canoe camping trips in the wilderness? And until next time, guys, I will see you as always in the next video. Peace.